items for the call for review. Councilmember Knox-White.
Sorry, thank you. So I appreciate the answers. I think, you know, quite honestly, I don't buy it. I really just don't. You can't suggest that there's a problem with one item and there's not a problem with other items. It is very clear that this was a targeted call for review. And I think it's really unfortunate and shameful. I'm going to say, and I'll walk my line very carefully here, but we have heard a lot of conversation about people who are very concerned about the fact that people don't abuse the rules with open government complaints. And we need to really loosen it up so people can just file lots of open government complaints because two people have concerns that they've already been turned down once. And yet here we are having a conversation where the very logic of we have heard no complaints about people who tried to call into the meeting on those other two items. We haven't heard from one person who has called in. They didn't even call in tonight to say they couldn't get in. The only complaint we heard was somebody who called in on the other line and said they had a problem with the first line. That person, who is an open government commission, then called in a second time and broke the protocols for engagement in our public meetings to continue commenting when when their time was up. So I think this is a really problematic precedent that we're setting here, that we're going to just call for review every single thing. And so personally, I'd like to see as a part, after we vote on this, I'd like to provide some direction to our staff that we have some conversations about when call for review is appropriate, because you didn't even call for review the decision. You want to call this an open government complaint? File an open government complaint. This was not a call for review. Now, since it was, and we've had the opportunity to hear from the community who didn't have the opportunity to give comment at the planning board, and yet not one of those people showed up. The only people who spoke were people who were actually there and on last time. I think that our meetings are never getting done because we are just constantly larding up, kind of political show and tell on here. And I'm really frustrated because quite honestly, I've worked really hard to try to help move even things I don't agree with forward on the agenda. And then we have to sit here and go through an hour-long conversation on an item because somebody wants just another bite at the apple. So those are my comments. I'm expressing my frustration. I appreciate the time that our staff has put in here. I'm very sorry that you have had to go through, just so much waste of time, and we could be working on other things, but instead we're having to prepare for ridiculous hearings like this. And I hope this is the last one. We've had 18 hearings on this project. And I understand that the design was not specifically a part of every single one of those 18 projects, but not one special new comment came out. The only comment about the project we heard from Mr. Rosenthal talked about the last call for review you guys had. He didn't even address the design. We haven't heard one design comment tonight. It's time to let projects that are meant to help people that have had the support in concept of the voters to move forward and stop trying to play these games to just stop it. So I look forward to working with both of you on other projects, but this one is really frustrating for me. And I was really, really surprised and disappointed to see that it was managed to get two call for reviews. And quite honestly, I think it's an abuse of our process. And I don't want to rewrite our processes to have to address kind of just the general abuse of trying to play politics with our processes. So that's my rant. I appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Knox-White. And I'm actually going